Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's show night. Woohoo. Hi, Chris. Thank you for joining. I'm doing okay. Hanging in there. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope everyone's having a decent week so far. I'm uh I'm not doing bad. I'm not. It's okay. I'm in a little bit of a tough spot today, but I'm getting through. Hi, Falco. Thank you for joining. Let's turn this volume up a little bit for y'all because I haven't got my mic yet. Nothing goes easier. I blame it on being in Britain, but really it's me being cheap. Oh, anyways, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. Please make sure to hit that like button for me. I appreciate it. If you feel like sharing with your friends, that would be great as well. That helps us out a lot. Let people know we're live and what we're going to do. Today we're going to do some fun stuff. We're going to watch some British people talk about why they don't like Americans. And then we're going to, if we have time, we're going to talk about some pictures that encapsulate America in 2024. Feeling in a little bit of a funky mood today. I'm not going to lie. So we're getting ready to go abroad. And it has been like the worst week at work last week and so far this week since I started this job. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm pulling my hair out constantly in the last few days. So I'm very much looking forward to going away. Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. How's the driving going? Honestly, I've taken a hiatus. Because of the move and everything. There was so much going on with we had family in from out overseas, and then we were moving, and we were trying to get ready for our trip. I had the visa renewal thing. We were both struggling with our jobs, so I took a little bit of a step back because it was really overwhelming me. The actual driving part is not hard at all. I'm doing pretty well with that, but the parking is a problem. So I don't know if y'all saw my question yesterday, but I just gave you the answer. It's all right. I've talked about it before. It shouldn't be a secret for anyone that follows the channel, but I do like these questions. I feel like we get a lot of people that wouldn't normally interact with the community posts trying to figure out those questions. It's kind of fun. Hopefully it'll bring some new people in. We can grow our family, our little community. Is the UK system or US traffic system better? I feel like it depends. I think that America has a little bit better highway system as far as regulating like flows of traffic because we have a lot of interstates that connect and you can just kind of go. They're like freeways. You don't have to pay for them or anything, and you go pretty fast, and you can go to a lot of places off the freeway where if something happens, there's other highways and motorways in the area that you can kind of get around the accident or whatever is holding up the traffic and get to where you got to go. Whereas here, the highway systems, I'm sure it has to do with the sizing and the way the country's been laid out for a lot longer than America's been around. But here, like your major motorways, right? If something happens, it shuts everybody down. Like you're just stuck. You don't really have a lot of ways to get around it unless you go like through towns and stuff. And those are kind of more trouble than they're worth sometimes. But I do think, this to answer your next question, I do think the roundabout system is a much better system than the traffic light system that we have in America. I don't think the traffic light system keeps anyone safe. I've gotten in a couple accidents because either I misjudged how much time I had between me and the car in front of me, or someone has done that behind me, or wasn't paying attention that the light was red or something like that. And a lot of people I know get hit a lot when they're trying to make left turn turns and things like that. I don't think the traffic system is very good in America as far as the traffic lights. I do think that the roundabout just keeps the flow of traffic going a little bit better. Of course, you can't be a dick. If you're going to be a dick, you're still going to get in an accident if you're not paying attention, obviously. But I just think the traffic flows better in most cases. That's been my experience, my limited experience. All right. You all want to get into it? Let's get into it. Let's get into it. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I'm brand new at this. Oh, let's throw a banner up. Let's help people to be good. Let's be good, people. All right. We're going to watch a video and see how that goes. Let me get rid of this banner. Hey, Piper! Yay, you made it! It has been a while, but we are very happy to have you here, girl. All right. Let's do this. So, why do the British look down on Americans? This should be fun.
How do you feel the British perceive Americans?
I feel like there's quite a...
What is this caption? Weirdo. Okay, let's try this again.
How do you feel the British perceive Americans?
I feel like there's quite a lot of, I hate to say it, but mockery involved.
I think a lot of people think Americans are extreme.
Do you think that the British think that they're better than Americans?
I think some do, yeah.
There's a lot to make fun of, I think.
We're also fantastic at queuing as well. That's another great thing about us.
Rubbing me the wrong way because they're too extra. It doesn't seem like it's genuine.
Today, I'm in London to get to the bottom.
Do I seem like I'm not genuine? I do. Actually, I agree with that. I do actually agree with that. There's a lot of fake people in America.
Bottom of a very important question.
For as long as I can remember, I have had the sense that the British look down on Americans. This is a generalization, and therefore doesn't apply to everyone, but it's a strong enough trend that I felt I needed to investigate this further. Here's a quote from Prince.
I feel like, though, British people tend to look down on a lot of people, and this is a generalization. I'm not trying to create any kind of controversy, but I feel like that you still have a little bit of that kind of superiority complex. Don't hate.
Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, that perfectly captures the feeling that I have about this. With some, the anti-American sentiment ran very hot. I was reminded of my childhood, when people warned me all the time about Americans. Too loud, too rich, too happy, too confident, too direct, too honest.
I'm very curious what people are going to have to say about this.
Okay, the directness. I have to make a comment about that. Y'all need to learn how to be a little bit more direct, because sometimes it takes so long just to get to the point. Just tell me what you need. Just tell me what you need. I've talked about this before, but it's something that really just gets under my skin. Just be direct with me. I don't need the frivolous, politeness. It's okay. I don't take it personally. Just be direct. I miss that. I miss that tremendously.
I have a feeling I'm onto something. Okay, so having said that, let's start talking to some people.
Excuse me, I'm shooting a video for YouTube. Could I ask you guys a question? It'll be really brief.
I hate it.
You hate it? Okay, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
Not that easy today, huh?
No, it's not. I was wondering if I could just get a moment.
I've got too much
We're
time.
off to a very slow start. That's okay. Let's just change up the spot because I'm feeling like there's enough projections in that 100-meter radius.
But, you know, I always feel really terrible that everyone's first attitude is, "Oh, you're from America, are you?" Oh, okay. You know, which is always a bit. You always feel a bit bad about that. Because I'm not entirely sure why we still do that, but you know.
Yeah. How do you feel perceived as Americans by the British here in London?
A big, stupid, bellowing oaf. Yeah, genuinely. I always feel like I have to apologize for being American. It's like, I know my accent's the worst thing you'll hear today, but can I just order a coffee?
Oh my God, yes. Why do you like? Yes, I do that. I feel like that too. Like I should apologize. Like I'm sorry that I'm here sometimes. Oh, she hit the nail on the head.
Experience I feel like has been a little bit different. I think that might be somewhat informed by the fact that I'm a student here.
Okay.
At first, there was a bit of a learning curve. Like when I would speak loudly on the tube, I would kind of get looks, and people would tell me like, "You're being American, like you maybe not."
There's definitely sort of a sense that there is a lot of difficult things going on in America, and that America potentially could be quite a difficult place to live, especially if you're of color or from the Middle East.
I have to admit, the inspiration to make this video came when I moved to Europe. As I've explored in previous videos on this channel, many Europeans have mixed to negative views of Americans as dumb and uncultured. But to my surprise, the same goes for the British. I've come to realize that the only people that see the British as intelligent and sophisticated are the Americans. Many Europeans, like the Portuguese or the Spanish, see a very different reality. The British.
Oh my God, that took a turn. Holy shit. I was not expecting that.
They go off on holiday to get extremely drunk and break things. The British that are isolationist with Brexit. The British that don't learn foreign languages, that stick to their native tongue. Wait a second, I thought to myself. That's what Americans do. Other people do this as well?
How dare they copy us?
I kid, of course. Still, it does feel like the Brits act like the Americans of Europe, but I am certain that is not something that they'd like to hear said about them. I mean, no offense. I am American after all. Does that not prove my point, though? No one wants to stoop to the level of Americans. I felt I had to get my answers directly from the source.
The bump went off in London. I'm going to take.
That's so true though. Like y'all do see like being American as
This lovely.
Our threat levels are critical.
Just like old times, eh?
Slow horses, new season streaming 4th of September.
I have to.
Looking after the things I love is a big deal, even for a giant. That's why I got Sky Protect. You get home insurance.
My perception is that the UK is
Hold up, sorry.
one foot in Europe, one foot like in the Americas. It feels like it should be in the middle of the Atlantic. Do you agree with that?
I think that's a pretty conclusive idea. Yeah, I think that's definitely true because a lot of people wouldn't even class England as being in Europe. You know, even in England, when you talk about going to Europe, no one ever thinks you mean Doncaster. They always think you mean Germany. You do get some perception that everyone's some sort of like a Valley Girl accent or something like that, and I think that annoys people quite a lot. But then again, it's the same way that English people are often perceived as all sort of being from London. The American dream, making yourself better and being seen to be self-improving. And it's a lot about earning money and being the best you can and going to the gym and all these kind of
Do you
things.
think that's, are you saying it's positive or negative?
I think it's a positive thing for Americans, but I think the way it's perceived is often everyone goes, "Oh, get out of my face," you know, because no one likes to enjoy someone else's success, at least in England anyway. I think in America it's probably very different. Oh, great, you got a promotion, you bastard, you know.
The identity of being American is like such a thing,
right?
That I don't think other places have that as much.
I don't think people are necessarily dumb, and I don't think it's a question of being dumb. I think it's just that there's this idea of like, being the best. To think that like people in America, depending on where you're born, you can have access to care or not, it's frightening. And I don't know how you can speak about being the best when you can't even make sure that everybody's like taken care of. Are you treating everyone the same way in America? No, not everyone is treated the same way, just like not everyone is treated the same way in Europe.
All right.
I think we're also fantastic.
100% on point, and that is something I struggle with a lot. People don't understand. People who have never been or lived in America, who've only visited, definitely have those issues with understanding that America is just not like there's a lot of like class there's class differentials everywhere, but there is a ton of class differential in America to the point where you basically are left to die if you're not in the right areas, or you're not in the right class. It's really, really, really that strict. And that it's like unspoken. It's not like it's written in a rule anywhere or anything, but it's built into how the whole country was founded and thrived and created.
Frightening. And I don't know how you can speak about being the best when you can't even make sure that everybody's like taken care of. Are you treating everyone the same way in America? No, not everyone is treated the same way, just like not everyone is treated the same way in Europe.
Having been to America a lot, they often ask, obviously as a joke, but just like, do you know the royal family or anything like that?
So do you feel that generally, the big generalization, there's mockery towards the Americans, and Americans towards the British is more like cute. We think you're cute.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah.
How do you feel about Americans thinking you're cute?
Well, it can be taken as a compliment, obviously, but if they think that we're like, as a country, not really a force to be reckoned with, then just because we do all these like things that date back to long before the US was established, it's not really relevant that they can mock us for that.
Is it condescending, would you say?
A little bit.
Or ignorant?
More ignorant. It doesn't like hurt me. You know?
How do you feel Americans perceive the British, first of all?
They kind of look down on us.
You feel that?
I feel like Americans think like they're on top of everything, and there's always competition between the two.
So do you feel like the British have a chip on their shoulder a little bit because of that?
Yeah, a lot.
What do you think the British are better at than Americans?
Yeah, polite, really.
More polite?
Yeah, more talkative, more helpful.
More helpful? The British are more helpful?
Yeah, than Americans. But Americans are nice, they're funny, got good music.
Got good music, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the British have good music too, man.
Americans are taking over the music scene.
But I mean, come on, there's a lot of great British music. So here's the thing that I think is going on here. We are not the same, the Brits and the Americans, but we sure have a lot of similarities. Compare us to the Japanese or to Native Americans or to Ethiopians, and the differences between Americans and the British seems relatively small. We're like blood siblings in the village that is the globe. So here's what all of this started to make me think of. There's a concept in psychoanalysis. I'm going to read you the definition, but it's called the narcissism of small differences. This comes from Freud. The narcissism of small differences is the idea that the more a relationship or community shares commonalities, the more likely the people in it are to engage in interpersonal feuds and mutual ridicule because of hypersensitivity to minor differences perceived in each other. We see this all over the world.
That's interesting. It makes a lot of sense, too. A lot of sense.
Between the Argentinians and the Chileans, for example, between the French and the Belgians. And indeed, I think this is what is happening between the Brits and the Americans. But at the end of the day, I feel like we make the little things that make us different much bigger than they really are.
The way that we speak and the words that we use.
Yeah.
And again, we were talking about this, weren't we?
Yeah.
About
We were talking
words.
about things like autumn versus fall. And it's like that's often something that people like bring up. And for some, well, it's because it's a simpler word and it's like, fall, American.
You guys don't say
classic.
fall?
No, we don't say fall. We
Oh,
say
interesting.
autumn.
Okay.
So this is autumn. Not fall.
But you can say autumn as well.
All right, before we go any further, I want to quickly thank the sponsor of this video, BetterHelp, whose support has made it possible for me to take this trip to the United Kingdom, as well as bring a videographer with me to film these interviews. These videos take a long time.
Constantly. I really do get called out on constantly. And people get really angry at me if I say fall. I don't understand why you get so angry.
Kingdom, as well as bring a videographer with me to film these interviews. These videos take a long time to concept and been deeply affected by therapy because I feel like it's really important, and so you can easily adapt me to be a better help for supporting my work. And now, let's dive back in. Personally, when I come to the UK, I have the impression that I've come halfway across the Atlantic, not just off the coast of continental Europe. And by that I mean, culturally, it feels so much more similar to the life that I had in the US. The convenience of life, the speed, the capitalism, the language.
Everyone speaks English. Everyone's like got the same sort of core values. I'm not necessarily a big Christian person at all, but we all come from this like Christian-based countries. America and Australia are English. There's some things that happen in history, but at the end of the day, we're kind of all the same group of people in that regard.
Culturally influenced.
Culturally influenced by the same group. So I personally don't see many differences at all.
I mean, I've got wonderful American friends who I adore. So that question for me is a difficult one because I think they're great, they're fantastic. I think the differences in the way our language is, in the way we use different words. That's where there's a difference.
So
But
pretty minor.
Yeah.
Do you think that sometimes some of the British media or the portion of the British population that looks down on Americans, is it a way to deflect some of the issues that exist here? Could that be said of all societies?
Yeah, you can say that of all societies, but you can also say that about the media. They're always distracting, aren't they, from topics, whatever it is.
America's seen as very alpha male. If you think about it in terms of masculine and feminine, there's an alpha maleness to Americans. And maybe it's just the way they speak, the accent, but you don't really have that sense of Britain. I think there's a stereotype of the repressed male, that soft-spoken.
Considering we're like right on the edge of Europe, we have more in common with America in many ways than we do with the rest of Europe, which in theory is where we should be more aligned. And I think there's sort of something that can feel sort of slightly odd about that, you know, like with the whole Brexit thing, breaking away more from where we're most closely connected to and sort of being in a situation where, you know, we're going to end up with chlorinated chicken instead.
There's this tendency to think of Americans as just, you know, they're simplistic, really.
Are you like annoyed by the Americans here in
Sometimes.
I wouldn't say
Depends how they are.
Now the interesting thing is I love to drag the US through the mud and criticize it for all the things that I think it deserves criticism for, but the second the Brits start criticizing me or the US, you have nothing to say. Kind of like I can criticize where I grew up, but you aren't allowed to. And the British, in my opinion, are doing their version of the same thing, criticizing themselves to no end, but no one wants an outside opinion. Maybe we all do this.
I disagree. Well, I do think the English do this. I do think there are Americans that do this, probably a bigger society in America. But you guys are like, I disagree that you can't have that conversation, and that like I don't get personally offended if someone talks shit about America. I get personally offended if they talk about like veterans, because I have a personal connection with that, and it's something I very much believe in, like American veterans. And I want to make sure when they talk about America's foreign policy that they're not attacking troops and the specific, you know, soldiers on the ground. But like I don't get offended if you talk about how America's trash or Americans are stupid or anything like that. I don't get offended. I want to have a conversation and try to explain my point of view, my experience, why I think you think that, and that kind of stuff. So I kind of disagree with not having that conversation. I think you should not get offended. I think that shouldn't be your first reaction. Although I will say that anytime I have anything negative to say about Americans, you should see the comment section. Oh, the same thing with Brits too, especially with the Brits. If I say anything negative about England, one of the first like 5 comments within the first 5 comments of the video is all about go home. Why are you here? You can go back. You have a choice. Things like that.
I think we all do this. It's like pointing at someone else's flooding house when your own house is on fire.
So I lived in America for 6 years. I lived in California, Alabama, and Oklahoma for 3 years. Everyone hears my accent and is like, oh, where in America are you from? I'm like, well, I'm actually from Australia, but then they give me their little opinions on American stuff. So I've actually had to play defense a couple times since I've been out here.
Are you serious?
I'm so serious. They talk about guns or they talk about this, but they don't have like a very good understanding, not just English people, this is people around the world, even in Australia, of the history of America and why those things became what they were. People trying to, you know, throw rocks and then hide their hands.
Yeah.
They don't want the blame to be on them. So it's easy to put it on the big superpower that is on everyone's TV.
My perception is I don't consider Americans necessarily lesser in terms of like lifestyle, culture, per se. I just think it's a bit more apparent than it is in the UK, but the UK is just as problematic.
There's always sort of a sense in the past that like America was sort of, you know, 2 decades ahead of what was happening in this country. There is a sense that we're getting closer in a time frame.
I would say younger generations tend to be a bit more, and the only word I can think of it is shameful of the heritage. I think it's a lot of things from like colonialization and things like that. There tends to be a lot more shame around it.
We're a small island, right? So we've got a small island mentality, but because we've got a small island mentality, we've got to overcome it by kind of that impression that we're the best. And I think that's changing, though. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a total reflection of society now, but I think historically it has been, of course. Let's flip the question. How are Americans perceiving the British?
My answer to that is there is a power dynamic going on. And for better or for worse, the US is much more of a world superpower right now. So I don't think that the US feels threatened necessarily, like competitive with Great Britain. Because of that, I think there's kind of like they're cute, you know what I mean? Like they're Harry Potter and James Bond and sophisticated and you know,
use words like autumn.
Exactly. But I also think that there's also a major degree of ignorance. Like the US is so self-involved. We're not even paying attention to what's going on elsewhere in the world. So there's not even enough to form an opinion, you know?
Now, this video was definitely supposed to be in good fun. I harbor no ill will towards the British. I find our rivalries as human beings across cultures, across nations, to be comical and interesting. It's like an insight into human psychology. And despite all of the, criticizing going on here, I'd like to end on a positive note. I'd like to express my appreciation for a few things that I think the British do better than Americans. Your healthcare system, for one.
Yeah.
Also, the Premier League. They say football was invented in England, and if that is true, as someone with Argentinian background, I can only thank you. I also have to thank you for your incredible music. What a contribution to our collective heritage. It is a foreign idea to me to have a royal family, but I respect the commitment to tradition.
I did move here the week that the Queen died. So it was really interesting to see. I think my first impression of like the British as a public was that of like mourning for their queen, the 14-hour-long line to go see her lying in state. So I think it was a little bit of a shock. This might sound silly, but how procedural the British can be. I noticed that tends to be like every British person I've met tends to be very procedural, as opposed to Americans, I think, are a little bit more, like, dare I say, free-spirited or individualistic. So, I mean, I think that's not to say that one is better than the other.
And as a final note, we are obviously a world of individuals. And so stereotypes never fully work. Still, I find it's so fascinating to explore the stereotypes and cliches that we have for one another. Not always, but often there is some sort of basis of truth there. Or else they wouldn't spread and persist as they do. Anyway, having said all of that, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please consider liking it, which does.
That was interesting. I thought it was going to be a little bit more fun than like informative and all that, but it was interesting. Let's catch up with your comments. You got annoyed with the video, Piper. Why is that? I'm curious. Hello, Miss Lynn. I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome. Glad to have you. It's like a little reunion today. Woohoo. You guys put me in a good mood now. Oh. Girl Gone London did this yesterday about direct and indirect communication. Ooh, I'm going to check that out, definitely. There's a video about us not being direct and Americans being direct. I recommend it. It's called British Communications Americans Don't Understand. Yeah, I will definitely check that out. Ms. Lynn says will be a little bit controversial, but up north, a spade is called a spade. We say it how it is, very direct. I've lived down south in a few places and worked in London. I know what he means about not direct. Okay, so it's a southern thing. It drives me crazy. Like, just come and ask me what you want to ask me, or if you need. Everything's like, okay, I'm sorry to bother you, but I couldn't help but notice. Like, just tell me you need a light for your cigarette, or tell me you need a pound, or whatever it is you're asking me. You just don't tell me. Like, I'm not. I'll have a conversation with someone, but I don't know. It's hard to explain, and I'm not doing a very good job. I'm not articulate at all today. Sorry. I think that there's a lot of similarities between how America is perceived and how the UK are perceived by people outside of America and the UK. Does that make sense? You often get drunk on mainland Europe. Oh, gosh. So a lot of countries in Europe don't have a great impression of us, though I like to say I'm thankfully not one of those people. Well, good for you, Piper. I feel like Mexico probably has that Mexico and like parts of Canada probably have that perception of Americans. because there's a few places in like Mexico, possibly Caribbean as well, and definitely if you go to Montreal in Canada, those are cities, those are places that Americans like to go on like their vacations and stuff. And I know Americans get crazy and wild. A lot of people on like spring break, which is our like Easter break. We don't have Easter break because it's a religious thing, so we call it spring break. But it's basically our time off of school and stuff in the spring. And there's tons and tons of college kids and stuff that will go to Mexico or something like that and get completely hammered the entire week. So I'm sure that there's a perception of that about Americans from Americans' neighbor, about Americans from their neighbors, very much so as well. I think it's a stereotype of the UK that we don't learn foreign language and we eat chips with everything and just want to get plastered all the time. Could be. I'm definitely not the stereotypical English traveler abroad. Love trying local food and don't drink. Love seeing, experiencing other cultures. I'm with you, Miss Lynn. I don't think I'm the typical American when I'm traveling because I'm all about going off the beaten path and not like being loud and obnoxious. I'm like very conscious of that stereotype when I go out. I try to be anyway. You would never see me in Benidorm because of the English drinkers and partiers. What is Benidorm? I assume that's abroad. Football hooligans ruin it for everyone. I can't say anything. I totally agree with him. I can moan all I like about my country, but when someone criticizes it, it gets my back up. That's what I was talking about, Miss Lynn. Like I can do a video. I've done a video on things I hate about England, right? And there are things like I'm struggling walking up and down the hills because I'm not used to having a lot of hills. Like I'm not actually criticizing England that much. I don't think I have enough knowledge to really effectively criticize England. I'm talking about my personal struggles, but you should have seen some of the stuff that people said. And all I have to say is I don't even have to really say I don't like something. I just have to say that something is weird or something I don't understand something, and people are telling me to go home. I know that Americans can be very sensitive about stuff like that, but I feel like England's a bit more sensitive. I love Americans, but I'm biased because I have good friends and family over there. I hear you. I mean, I'm a little biased too, to be fair. I mean, I have really good friends and family here, so I am also a little biased. I admit my bias. Hi, TJ. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I think Chris says, I think that is probably the problem with America is the lack of knowledge and interest in the rest of the world. You got lost in Hogwarts. Oh, don't be sorry. That sounds like fun. I think that's valid, Chris, and I think that what a lot of people struggle to understand that don't know America as well is that we're not. Part of it is the fact that we're so huge. We're literally coast to coast, right? A huge land mass on this continent, and we don't really have a lot of contacts with the outside world, per se, right? And a lot of culture from America translates out, but not a lot of culture translates in. And we have so many different cultures inside of our borders because of our, melting pot, diverse group, that those things don't always mesh even internally, let alone trying to understand outside world. I don't know if that helped anything. Made it sound a little bit worse, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm having trouble articulating myself today. There's a lot going on. I wish Americans had the NHS services. I agree, Sam. I really, really, really wish Americans had some kind of public health option. It is insane to me how much money we have, how many resources we have, how many people are left to die, basically, because they don't have insurance, and how many people are tied to their jobs that they hate and they're miserable because they need the insurance. It's a terrible system. It's a terrible system. I need a boom microphone. I know, I'm shopping, but our trip abroad took precedent. But I do have a couple that I'm looking into. Thank you for the suggestion. Sam's always got my back. Oh, thank you, Sam. TJ, I must be American. I sound very direct. Could be. You got some American blood in you. Or maybe it's just that you hang out with really cool American people. Mexico is probably our Benidorm. Okay, I'm going to assume I'm saying that right. Benidorm. Thank you so much for the super chat, Sam. I appreciate it. Oh, guys, so I don't know if I mentioned this formally. I know I spoke to the members. We are suspending the membership program right now. I basically didn't feel right. Let me start again. I have so much going on right now behind the scenes that I was struggling with keeping up with the amount of content I was promising for regular subscribers as well as members. And it didn't feel right to me to, have you guys give the channel money as part of the membership program and not be able to deliver on the promises that I made, because I don't like that at all. I don't make promises I don't intend to keep. So I pulled back the membership program. We're still making monthly donations to the Royal British Legion. So any contribution you can make, whether it is a monetary contribution, a direct donation, or just hitting the like button and watching a lot of the videos, all that helps. So we are still doing it. And hopefully at some point I'll be able to free some bandwidth up and be able to reinstate the membership program at a later date. Because I do like it. I like that, we were able to connect a little bit more personally on some things, but it's just not in the cards right now. But you can always send a super chat. There also is a link to buy me a cup of coffee in the description box and in the channel description as well. And you can always hit that thanks button below your favorite video. And if you have the cash or the inclination, send us some money there. Again, all of that stuff is, portions of that stuff goes to the Royal British Legion, and the rest goes into the channel, upgrading with equipment and things like that. So I appreciate it. But if, if you're a little low in cash, just keep rewatching your favorite videos. I'm happy with that. Benidorm is a place in Spain. Okay. I really feel like I'm saying it wrong then. But I'm American, so you expect it, right? I get annoyed because their cute sounds patronizing and like they are looking down on us rather than the other way around. To me, just complaining about other countries, generalizing. So when I heard Brits complaining about the US, I never thought of it as looking down on them like he seems to take it, but it was an interesting perspective. I can understand what you mean. It does come out condescending sometimes when you're like, oh, that's so cute. And that kind of sounds condescending. I don't know that we always mean it, but I do know I say it. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Something I used to say that used to annoy British people all the time was when I said ill, when I didn't like something, or when someone said something I thought was kind of out of line, I would be like, ill. And that really, really annoyed people. So I kind of started toning that down a little bit. But I understand where you're coming from, Piper. I've definitely seen people use it in a condescending way. It's nice having a proper discussion. Yeah, having a real honest discussion where I think that's what you're referring to, where I was talking about being able to have a discussion about the good and the bad in each country and have an honest exchange of ideas rather than someone getting offended or someone getting emotional or having an emotional response. Like I said, I don't really take offense. If people are like, oh, America sucks. I'm like, why do you think I'm here? Like, of course, there are parts of America that suck. Sure, there's parts of England that suck, just like every other country in the world. But I'm sure, there's great things about all the countries too. So you just have to take the good with the bad, unfortunately. But I'd rather have an open conversation about it. And it offends me more when someone's like, the two things offend me that happen to me a lot. One is when I say I'm from America and they're trying to argue with me about why I left, or when they try to argue with me about when I'm explaining to them why I left and they're telling me, oh, it's not that bad, when they've never lived there. Like, really? I'm not telling you that England is roses and you've lived here your whole life. Like, just that annoys me so much. We seem to be going in circles thinking we are both looking down on each other. Yeah. I honestly never thought Americans ever thought we were looking down on them, because to me, looking down on, we're saying they dislike aspects of the country are different. I agree. I think, though, there is a perception about British people that, like I had mentioned earlier, that they have a little bit of a superiority complex. And please don't be offended, and hear me out. I think it comes from when you ruled the world. Like, you literally ruled the world. You had an empire and you had territories everywhere, and there was even points where you didn't even have to actually fight to colonize and take over some of these areas. And I understand where that comes from. If you rule the world, I come from America, and we're kind of in the middle of a sort of modern empire. And I get where it comes from, and I think there are still people in England subconsciously, I don't think they're doing it on purpose, I think subconsciously, when there's a foreigner, they naturally act a different way than if the person was English. And I work in an industry where there's a lot of logistics from Europe and a lot of foreign drivers, and I see it like firsthand. I've experienced it firsthand. But on the reverse side, I've seen Americans do it to foreigners as well. So I do think it's just, I do think that English people, I think it's more subconscious English people, and with Americans, I think it's programmed from birth. As we're told we're the greatest country in the world from grade school, basically. I think in England, I think it's just something that's like a subconscious thing that's been kind of passed down because of the generations of being part of the empire. That's just my 2 cents. TJ says, I've been on other streams from the US, and some of them have really got upset when I have retaliated when they started giving me grief for being a Brit. Yeah, sensitive. Doesn't make any sense to me. You say America is so huge, then Australia joined the chat. Yes, please like and subscribe. Yes, it's totally free and it helps me a lot. I'm saying it right. It's Benidorm? Benidorm. I said Benidorm. I need Lemsip. It's for colds and flu. Can I say one more thing? I literally feel like I have been sick since I stepped off the plane. Like, it's always just a little, it's not allergies, because it happens all the time. The dry cough comes and goes, so I think that might be a little bit allergy related or hay fever related. But I do feel like I'm constantly sick. Like I feel constantly run down. I feel like I get fevers a lot more here, and I feel like I need so much more rest, and I'm like always fighting a cold. That's what it feels like. I'm always sick. I'm always like on the cusp of fighting a cold. And when I do get sick, god damn, I get sick. Like, it hits me a lot harder here as well. And someone had mentioned in one of the comments that it's like new antibodies and stuff that I have to develop because of the new surroundings. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but it's annoying me, to be honest. It keeps putting me back behind the 8 ball, I feel like. Hi, Niket. No, I don't do Snapchat. Sorry, but thank you for the invitation. I had Miss Lynn said I had so many people down south, Berkshire and Buckinghamshire, look down at me because of my accent. I'm a Scouser. People are just weird. Okay, Miss Lynn, this is no offense to you because I love that you're here and you know that you've been here a while and I totally appreciate it. And this is nothing personal to you. But when I first met English people, they told me to beware of Scousers because they're definitely going to rob me. And I knew a Scouser in America. And he used to steal stuff off of people's cars all the time. So didn't help. Didn't help. I'm sure that's not you. But that is kind of, I have to admit that that's one of the first things I think of when I hear Scouser. Or when I hear when someone's from North. So I'm sorry. But you seem adorable and lovely. I think this is the worst the UK has ever been. I don't know, obviously, but I've heard that from a few people. A lot of people are not unhappy with where the UK is right now. Yeah. They loved your accent in Australia. They tell you when I went to Australia, I had the hardest time talking to people. I couldn't understand any of them. I had like a 10-minute conversation with someone in the grocery store. They were asking me all kinds of questions. I had no idea what they were saying. It was really bad. I had a really bad time. Luckily, I was with my sister and she knew was there going to school, so she was a little bit more familiar. I'm gonna let you guys have your conversations. Scousers are friendly, kind, helpful, and funny, I might add. I think so. I think you're lovely, Miss Lynn. I have never had anything but a pleasant conversation or interaction with you. So I know I'm somebody that also recognizes that stereotypes are out there. There's maybe some truth in it, but it's usually perception. And also that one person doesn't represent the entire group. Yeah, I think I have a little bit of hay fever because I did have allergies in America, Chris, but there's definitely something else since I've been here because it just feels constant. And even when I take like hay fever pills and stuff, it doesn't help. So it's almost like I have to knock myself out every night with cold medicine. And it's the nasaling thing. I don't know. I know the season's changing as well. So I don't know if it's just that I could be a bit run down because it's been a really busy few months. So I'm hoping that a little rest and relaxation. I just feel exhausted all the time. And I know that like the stress at work is also getting to me. So I know that I've been in that situation before. So I know that has something to do with it, but it definitely feels like I'm constantly congested or fighting congestion. It's really annoying. You guys are hilarious. I love it. No, you guys are fab. I know that, yeah, this guy I knew was a bit of a jerk. No offense meant at all, but I think the superior thing and thinking they're all still an empire hindered our previous government. I feel like there's just, I think there's some truth to that, Piper, because I think that conservative people are conservative. They don't want things to change, right? They want things to go back to a time when they think was better. Hello, MAGA in America. I don't know if you guys know them, but they're a cult-like supportive group of Donald Trump, and it stands for Make America Great Again, which was his slogan when he ran for president the first time. And it's basically all about going back to a time when, white people were in charge and could do whatever they want without any kind of repercussions. And that's not right. And it's not, where we should be as a society, in my opinion. But that's what they think. And and they're conservatives. People typically, for conservatives, just want it to not change. But I don't think that's a realistic approach to life, because life's constantly changing. It's never the same as it was yesterday. There's always something new, because you learn something new every day. You meet new people every day. You have a new experience every day. Even if you go to work one day to the next, it's not exactly the same, right? You don't interact with the same exact people in the same exact way every single day. So you always have something different going on. So, and our brains are set up to absorb all of that knowledge and experience, so, and create a memory from it. So it just doesn't make any sense. I feel like it's more of a symptom that there's something missing that needs to be addressed. But that's just my opinion. I noticed you haven't looked your usual happy self for a good few weeks now. Oh, thanks, Miss Lynn. Yeah, I've just been, it's been a tough couple weeks. It's been a tough couple months since right before the move. That's why I'm hoping that just have a little bit of a break, recharge, and things will be better. We have had moments of recharge, but to get us through. But we definitely need a break. We need a nice long break. So Piper, I hear you on that, and I feel exactly the same whenever I see or think about the fact or hear someone call Trump president. I am embarrassed that he was elected president, that he was our president, that it was even entertained as a realistic point of view. If here's like Groundhog Day where you work, I would love to work in a place where it's just the same thing over and over again, and I don't really have to, like, I can shut my brain off a little bit. That would be amazing. I would really, really like to have that kind of job, TJ. I'm not gonna lie, because I've had this, like, where I've had to be the intellect for so long, and I just need a break from it. I'm so worn out from corporate world. I've been doing it for so long, and I'm done with like the schmoozing. I'm done with the like fake friendliness and the always having to be on point and having to deal with all these people's egos. And I just want to like wait tables. Like, I just want something simple like that, but I want it to pay my bills. Yeah, I agree. I think change is good and progress. Only been to Liverpool once and it was great. I'm with you, Piper. I went to Liverpool once. It was a long time ago before. I was, a really long time ago. That's all I'm going to say. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I would have liked to, I want to go back and explore it a little bit more. Plus, you guys have told me some things in that area that I want to check out too, that I didn't get a chance to, because I didn't go alone. Other people took us. So kind of was on a 50-50 schedule. But I did do the magical mystery tour. I got to see Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, and there's something else. I can't remember the other thing. And I did get to cross Abbey Road, but that was obviously in London. You're a legend. Oh, thanks, Sam. You guys are awesome, because I know all of the people that are in the chat right now. You guys have been around for a long time with me on this channel, and you're like the solid OGs. I don't know what I would do without y'all. You really keep this going, and you keep me sane. This is why I do this every week, even though I'm exhausted. Oh, yes, please hit the like button. I appreciate it. I think you get to a certain age and you just think Sadiq can't cope with all the crap. Could be. It could be I'm hitting a certain age. I'm not sure what you mean by certain age, because I'm only like 20. And then I smile and you can see all my crow's feet. You're 5 minutes away from Penny Lane. I don't know how you guys feel about this. This has been something I was toying with. Of having like a live group chat. Just for certain members, maybe. Certain subscribers, I should say, maybe. I don't know. I was thinking about doing something. I want to do something to celebrate you guys. We've hit you know, we've hit over 2,000 subscribers. It's almost like over 2,200, I think, which is incredible. We've had over 1 million views, and we're doing really well. And I want to celebrate that with you guys somehow, but I need some suggestions. So make sure you put them in the comments if you guys have any suggestions on what we could do. And yeah, all right. Give me a heads up when you come to Liverpool. It'll be not the Beatles. Why not, TJ? I'm gonna look for this Girl Gone London thing right now. Hold on. You're talking about the direct one, right? Falco? Is that the one you're talking about? I just want to make sure. Oh, thank you, Miss Lynn. Our channel is booms because it's fab. Piper, I do have Falco, just confirm for me that's the video you want to watch, and I'll definitely get it in. Yeah, I just said M like a British person. Don't make fun of me. We're going on holiday this weekend, actually. We're going to Europe, and we're going to be gone for like 10 or 11 days, which is the longest vacation I've ever had since I've gone to Australia before I became a parent and met my partner. So Sam, how long did it take you to write that comment? That is commitment right there. That is commitment. Where you're going away as well? Good call. It is always good to be able to go away. I'm not used to being able to go away so often, to be honest. So I'm looking for this Girl Gone London one. Yeah, if someone could post the link. I'd be happy to not do the Beatles again, to be honest with you, because I've done it, so I'm good. I'm losing my train of thought. Is this the one you don't understand? I think this is it. This looks like the most recent one. Why? Give me one. Because I suck. Obviously. All right, Girl Gone London. It's my girl here.
In my American brain, I thought, if you wanted me to do that, you should have just said. The first time I realized there was going to be a problem, my coworker in the UK said to me, "Hey, can you check if the upstairs window is open?" And this was just before we were about to leave the office to go to a meeting. I was new, I was fresh-faced, I was young. I mean, I was younger. I like to think I'm still young. But anyway, I was also American, and I had no real idea why they cared if the upstairs window was open, because there were a few other people still in the office. But I was like, sure thing. person above me in seniority, I will go check if the upstairs window is open. So I walked upstairs and I looked at it and it was open. So I walked downstairs and I said, just checked, it's open. And they sort of stared at me and said, did you close it? And I stared back and I said, no. And they stared back even harder and said, could you go back and close it then? And I was like, sure, no problem. Now you're asking me to close the window, so I will go and carry out this instruction, no problem. It was quite a bit later when I realized that they were attempting to communicate with the first ask of, can you check if the window is open, that they wanted me to close the window. In my American brain, I thought, if you wanted me to do that, you should have just said. This is one of the many examples.
Yes. Oh my fucking God, yes. Just say, hey, could you go check if the window is open upstairs? And if so, can you close it? That's it. That's all you have to say. That's all you have to say. Oh, and then if I come back and say, oh, if it is, do you want me to close it? Don't be arrogant and be like, yeah, like I should know.
I've accumulated over the years of how Americans often struggle with British indirect communication. Compared to the Brits, Americans are very literal beings, and to a Brit, that can come across as Americans being dumb, but I'm here to assure you that there are many reasons why Americans can be dumb, but this actually isn't one of them. You see, communication is based on culture, and there's a fascinating theory about high context and low context cultures. To be a high context culture means that there's a lot of indirect communication. It requires less explicit and laid out in front of your face communication. It relies on a shared understanding of experiences and hidden meanings, and it's all about subtlety and reading in between the lines. A low context culture, on the other hand, values direct, straight talking communication with little room for hidden meanings. It's a culture that expects you to take things literally when they are communicated and not have to read too far into what someone actually means, because they're just going to tell you. This continuum is a spectrum. Different countries are along the high context and low context spectrum. It's not just black and white, but the US trends towards the low context end. That is the end that requires direct communication. And the UK trends towards the high context end, allowing for a lot of implicit meaning. And it has nothing to do with intellect. Think about the histories and the makeup of the two countries themselves. I go to buildings in the UK all the time that are hundreds of years older than the US even is as a country. And while the UK is certainly changing over time in the makeup of its citizens, its history is that of homogeny, i.e., a lot of people with shared backgrounds and understandings and a lot of history to back all of this up. This kind of history creates a high context culture where subtleness can thrive. Compare this to the US, which is genuinely founded on being the land of immigrants, of people coming from a lot of different places and with a much shorter history as a country, and you've got yourself the perfect makings of a low context culture.
Okay, that was perfectly articulated and exactly what I've been trying to get my head around since I've got here. Thank you. Thank you. And I hope anyone that's watching this, please listen to this, because it's not that we're trying to be difficult, but not everybody thinks like you. Not everybody thinks like the English people do. Please. It's really, really hard for us.
Rely on direct communication in the US with little hidden meaning, because this is the most effective way to communicate between people from different backgrounds and with different shared histories, and sometimes in the beginning even different languages. Here's an example. A study had UK and US respondents talk about their perceptions of a statement to see what they thought it meant. The first statement was the phrase, "That's an interesting idea." 3 in 4 Americans believed this meant that their idea is impressive, because that is what that statement is directly communicating. That is an interesting idea, so I think you're saying that my idea is interesting. Compare that with the UK respondents. 1 out of 3 of them actually felt there was hidden meaning there, that you were saying actually their idea was not good. There are entire charts online to help people who move to the UK figure out what in the world British people are actually saying.
Wait, I need to look at that chart for a second. Sorry, y'all. Oh, I'm going to have to download this chart and memorize it.
who move to the UK figure out what in the world British people are actually saying. The same charts don't exist for people moving to America because we don't need a chart. We're just going to tell you. Americans will typically say if we don't like something or if we do. Obviously, there's a ton of nuance here when it comes down to region and personality. Typically, the East Coast in America tends to be more direct than the West Coast, for example, and there are classic examples of hidden meanings in America as well. A very famous one is a statement in the South where you say, "bless their heart." This can mean that you think fondly of the person and would like to bless their heart, but it can also mean you think the person is the stupidest person you've ever met. And you do need some tonal cues to figure out which one is which, but on the whole, in the US, we like to get to the point. If we think you're great, we'll tell you, and not in a sort of hidden coded language way, but in a, "hey man, I think you're awesome and doing a great job" kind of way. It's direct and doesn't leave room for confusion over whether someone is telling you you're doing a great job but actually thinks you're terrible. Similar with directions. If we want you to close the window, we'll say, "hey, can you close the window?" And this is the communication style I was used to, hence my confusion and my first anecdote. However, the confusion usually only comes in for foreign visitors or new arrivals in the UK. A high context culture like the UK isn't confusing to those that are raised and exist within it because they are raised to understand these hidden meanings and to talk this way. And in fact, the indirectness in the UK is sort of seen as part of the British charm. It reflects a value within the country of sort of downplaying things and having what is almost seen as good manners. In the US, it's not considered bad manners to be direct because we value that direct communication highly as part of our culture. Again, it's one of those things where we're not saying either country is wrong or smarter or any number of judgments. We're just exploring why things are the way they are. The types of communications used work well within both countries. You just get into a bit of trouble when they get mixed. I do question the number of times someone has told me something is quite good in the UK and I celebrated, because in the US, that would mean it was really good, or at least pretty good. In the UK, it can mean that was average or that was not good at all. And you have to use a combination of body language and tone to figure it out. Now, again, like I talked about, this low context and high context scale, it's a spectrum. And compared to some other cultures, the UK can be considered a low context culture. There is still a degree of directness that is in UK communication that isn't in some other countries that require even more use of body language and implicit understanding. But the UK is a much higher context culture than the US, and that's what we're comparing in this video. Other higher context cultures than the UK, aka ones that have even more hidden meanings, are places like Japan, China, much of Africa, as well as some other European countries like France. In addition to the US on the low context end of the spectrum, we have places like Canada, Switzerland, and Germany. Other examples of this indirect style of communication in the UK that I found, some of which are pretty funny, are: number one, when Brits say it's not quite what we expected. What they mean is this is an absolute disaster bearing zero relation to what we need, and we are incredulous as to how you would even think this is appropriate. Americans would take the phrase, "it's not quite what we expected," and believe that means they just need a little bit more work until it is what you expect. It also goes for invitations. So
they just need a little tweaking.
So if you bump into an American and you haven't seen them in a long time, and at the end you say, "we should get together soon," an American is going to believe that invitation is actually coming. This is
oh my God, that's happened to me so many times where people like would say, "oh yeah, we're gonna have you over for dinner," or "yeah, we're gonna keep in touch," and I like reach out and I kind of get ghosted. And I'm like, I thought we were gonna like hang out. I have no friends here. I thought we were gonna be friends. Oh my God, I got caught out so many times on that. And it's so annoying. And it can be a little bit deflating when you're in a new country. Just a little bit of advice.
Direct communication. You say we should get together soon, you mean it, they're going to reach out and arrange it. Often in the UK, this is just a throwaway phrase to end a conversation or a situation, and you both know that you're not going to be getting together anytime soon. It goes unsaid. It's a shared understanding that you're not actually saying what you're meaning. Other examples are someone saying "to each their own." This does not mean to each their own. Sometimes in the UK, it can mean "you're wrong, but never mind." an American would listen to this and be like, yeah, that's a nice statement. Everybody gets their own opinion, to each their own. They're not necessarily going to read into the negative connotation of a statement like that. What about if someone says in the UK, I'm just popping out for lunch, does anyone want anything? This is not an actual question. This is a statement that means I'm getting my lunch, please remain silent. Or if someone in the UK says, that conference was rather disorganized, an American would probably take this as it was a little bit disorganized, because an American would say that conference was absolute chaos, which is probably what a Brit would be meaning by that statement. They've just toned it way down and used a sort of indirect language to describe what is happening. And a classic one in the UK workforce, someone might say, just whenever you get a minute. This is hugely difficult for people used to direct communication to understand. Typically, this is a British indirect way of saying, do this now. But if it's taken at face value, it means this is actually of lesser importance than what you might be working on right now. So when you get a minute, even if it's not now, can you eventually get around to this task? As an American who moved to the UK, I struggled so much with this one. If they wanted me to do this now, why couldn't they just say, do this now? Now that brings me to the end of this video. Thanks very much for watching. If you're British, leave your comments below on what you might.
Okay, that was fantastic. Great suggestion. Thank you. Definitely gonna look into that chart and memorizing it. I totally feel her with the indirect communication, especially when it comes to work. And I do think that's part of my frustration at work. She hit the nail on the head with all of that. I feel like at work, anytime someone asks me to do something, it has to be done right now. And there's no regard to anything else that might be happening or anything else I might have on my agenda at that moment. I feel like that expectation is kind of put on us a lot. And that might be some indirect tone that I'm picking up on without realizing it, maybe. And that might be a stress, because it's like, that's not the only thing I'm here to do is what you want me to do. I'm here, like, I actually have like tasks that I need to complete each day. So maybe that's part of my frustration. Oh, very very informative. And yeah, the high context, low context thing makes total sense. But that's, I think, my issue is that is definitely a perspective thing that I'm struggling with, because she was right when she said it has to do with Americans growing up around multicultural diversity as a given. You're taught from a young age that people are different, and you need to respect that, and you need to listen, and you need to, make sure that you're not that you're communicating in a way that everybody can understand. And here, I'm always being made to feel like I'm dumb because I don't understand what people are talking about, or I have to like triple check what people are actually saying to me to make sure it's right. And I think people think that I'm incompetent and I'm unintelligent because I don't get it because I didn't grow up here. 100%. And I think that's not just like a British American thing. I think it's a culture thing. I think it's, whatever culture you grow up in, you learn the language, you learn the slang, you learn the inflections, right? You learn all that stuff based on how you grow up and what you're exposed to. That's where accents actually come from in most cases. As you pick up stuff, based on where you live and based on where you are. But the issue I'm having is that even though I'm expected to respect that I'm in a different country and that I have to learn that culture, there's no mutual return respect, that I might not understand stuff. And I feel like, I don't know if that's like a British thing or it's just me taking it personally because I'm really struggling. I don't know. But that's where I think the disconnect is between the two cultures. I think America is better at being open about that kind of stuff because they're more direct, whereas British people are just, they just think you should assimilate and you should just know. And I don't think it's fair. It's a bit of a double standard. Anyway, that was good. Thank you for making me watch that video. That was really good. It made me feel a lot better about my situation. Thank you. We're going to Greece, which is a lifelong dream of mine. So I'm really excited. I hope it's as good as I've built it up to be in my mind. Do you know about canals in Britain and narrow boats? I've seen those are like the houseboats things, right? I think. Is that what you're talking about, Chris? You going to Poland? Oh, I want to go to Poland. Sam's joke, never trust windows, you can see right through it. Spain is a favorite country that that you've ever visited, Piper. I want to go to Spain as well. I actually have family in Spain, so we're definitely planning a trip there. Yeah, I like the Girl Gun London channel. It's a good channel. She's really good. Just do what they say and nothing else. Well, the problem is the expectation that comes along with it, right? Like if I just do what they say, then they get pissed off that I'm not doing what they've implied I should be doing, and then it just creates more havoc for me. All right, Sam. You're on a roll today. You're hilarious today, Sam. True. Yeah, TJ, if you're in the forces, you need to be pretty direct. I can understand why she needed a break. It's a tough being online is a tough gig. She's got a lot more followers than I do too, so I could imagine. And then life gets in the way sometimes too. Like you just have things that you need to take care of and you feel bad, but you only have you can't be, you don't want to spread yourself too thin, all that. All right, Miss Lynn, I'll get you a list. I'm going to lunch. Stay silent. Yeah. Why ask then? Just be like, okay, I'm going to lunch. Then don't ask us if we need anything. I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm not offended. Oh. Yeah, living abroad is tough. Is tough. And you know what? It doesn't it's tough to explain and talk about to people who haven't experienced it. I am thankful that my partner was an immigrant for a long time in America, so we kind of have some of that in common. We can kind of console each other from time. Yeah, I need to get more specifics next time somebody asks me to get together or says they want to get together. We are doing Greece, and then we're going to go to one of the islands as well. I haven't been to Santorini. My son I work with just came back from Santorini and said it was gorgeous. Auschwitz. Oh my gosh, Chris, don't say things like that. Oh, I'm not even gonna say it out loud. That's one of the reasons we want to go to Poland too, but also I want to go to Warsaw. But yeah, Auschwitz is definitely on my list, and we're going to try to do that this year actually, but it just didn't work out because I was out of work for a couple months, but hopefully soon. Private says, I think while Brits understand Americans' different wordings, but I do think a lot of us don't understand the culture difference. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, guys, that's it for me. We are way over time and I'm way past my bedtime. There's going to be bonus content that's out on Thursday, but it is the snippet from a former live stream. So if you've seen it already, sorry, but I thought it would be fun to put out for people who hadn't seen it. And also there'll be content on Saturday, of course, our regular UK versus US comparison vlogs. And I'm not sure what's going to happen next week because we don't really have any plans. So make sure you click that subscribe button and click that notification bell and keep an eye on the community posts because it is entirely feasible. There could be a live stream from Greece. So we'll see. But anyway, I thank you guys so much for joining me. I love you all, and I appreciate everything that you guys do for me. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already, and make sure you go and check out all the other stuff on the channel. Make sure you interact with the community tab, and everybody have an amazing, amazing rest of your week. Have a great time in Poland, Chris, and be safe. And I thank you very much for your good wishes. I will do my best to stay safe and enjoy every minute that I can. And love you guys. And I'll talk to you soon. Good night, everyone. Bye.